My name is John Tolva. I work for the IBM Corporation. I'm the Director of Citizenship and Technology. So basically, we're the area of IBM that makes strategic donations of technology and services that align with IBM's corporate focus. In this case, for the last several years and years to come, it's called Smarter Planet, which is treating the hardest problems in society as problems of systems engineering and systems design. Cities are one of those, and that's my focus. An intelligent city is an intelligent, complex system. And what that is a system, I mean, it can be the human body, it can be a financial market, it can be anything where there's a nonlinear relationship between a cause and an effect. I mean, everybody can think of an example of that in the built environment. A water main break or a traffic collision has far-reaching consequences. It's a system like that that actually is aware of the interdependency of systems in the city, in this case, and can react. It's a self-aware, sort of self-healing system. And I note that not only to say that it's a technology thing. We have some self-healing systems in cities, and they're composed primarily of people. But we can match that kind of responsiveness to change these days with our ability to process the vital signs that are coming from the systems that make up the city. We call that data, but it's not just from sensors, it's also from the people who are kind of texting and tweeting. We have a really rich sense of what's happening in the city today. Applying analytics to that, then feeding that insight back into the system, sort of like a thermostat feeds what comes into it back into the environment, and then scaling that up leads to intelligent cities, smarter cities. Well, there's a number of barriers, and this is indicative of cities writ large, is that there is the vital signs that are coming off of a city, let's say, or compared to a human body. There are multiple monitors on you in a hospital room, maybe even multiple doctors, but they're all reading an open set of data. Taking all that data from your heart, from your lungs, from your legs, whatnot, putting that into a coherent whole and saying, this is what's wrong, this is the course of action. In a city, it would be like if the heart was run by one agency, the lungs were owned by a private company, and you'd had trouble even bringing those sets of data together. So it's the relative openness of the data is one. Now on the other end, it would be it's a question of digital divide, but I'm careful to point out that really is less connectivity, though that is an addressable problem, and more literacy. So it would be like you had the wrong specialist in the room, in the hospital analogy. In order for the city to capitalize on the vital signs that are being analyzed, we need more than just the city leaders, who, by the way, don't have a very high literacy in this area, but more than just the city leaders to be able to read and take action from what's going on. To really galvanize an intelligent city, you need the populace at large to be able to read these. So it's a digital literacy issue. Most U.S. cities are managed according to a discipline, let's say, of hyperlocal governance that was established, in the 19th century. And structures ossified around these ways of managing things, because the buck really does stop at the city government. They've got to pick up the trash. They've got to shovel the snow and things like that. There is a reluctance to change, even more so than at other levels of government. There's a reluctance to change things that just happen to be working. The opportunity is that when we look at the data, especially across systems, which is to say across departments that manage those systems, we see the interdependencies, we see the unforeseen consequences of decisions, and you're looking at this it's a snapshot of the way the city is used. We don't talk about cities being used, but they are platforms for living and work and things like that. You start to see new ways of managing those cities. And that's not just a question, again, of City Hall. It's how can communities and neighborhoods manage themselves. I think this might give us, the truest picture of the way cities work. And I think horizontally rather than vertically, the way we've got it. A lot of other complex systems, the corporation, for instance, suffers from these same, sort of highly verticalized kind of calcified structures, but many have made that leap. I think in some ways corporate America and even academia is able to take these sort of transverse slices through it and say, we're not talking about streets and sanitation, or we're not talking about transportation, for instance, the Department of Transportation. We're talking about mobility, which goes across all kinds of different departments. And what's different now is that we have some empirical evidence with the data that's coming off of these and the ability to analyze it with computing tools.